Hey, what's happened to our country? Welcome to Integrated Preparedness, and I think I'm going to put this over on American Reversion too, so welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. As I was driving out here today, and to let you know where I am, I am at our secondary primary, our alternative primary, alternative location, bug out location. Uh, I was at the first one. I made one a few days ago on bugging out the public land. And I said in that one we were just a few miles from our secondary because, choices. And so now I'm at that secondary one. This is a public um, area, very large area. It's a botanical garden type of place. We're taxpayers, so like I say, I figure we own it, and we're also members, so I figure we own it twice. It's a beautiful place. It has a lot of water sources. It has rough country back in there where you can't see. Uh, a lot of open space for growing food if we need it long term. A lot of really rough country back there to use for other reasons. And if you hear some noise over there, it's a guy hauling a trash can down, keeping my place nice and tidy. While I want to use it now and in case I need it later. And it's got good water sources. Got a huge, well, as you can see, a huge pond, small lake right behind me. It's got others, got running water, got everything that you want. As a matter of fact, if you read my books, the lay of the land is very much like Stonemont. So that's where I am. But getting back to what's happened to our country, driving out here, I wanted to talk about this. It's on everybody's mind. And I was thinking, do I put it as a question or a statement? Do I put it, what's happened to our country? To which everybody has an opinion, right? Or what's happened to our country? What has happened to it as a statement, meaning here's my opinion on what's happened to it. And probably I should pose it as both. We'll see how I end up putting it up, but both apply. In doing some research for the current book that I'm working on, Blessings of Freedom. It's the fifth book in the Stonemont series. I found the story, as often happens, I found the story going off into a direction that interests me. And in those stories, it's the series, I talk not just about preparedness and survival and things like that, but the proper creation of governmental systems, of human interaction, of groups, of our history, the American history. Uh, I address a lot of things in them that a lot of people have wrong. They don't know. It's amazing. People think they know about our history, and they form their opinions about things on what they think they know, and what they know is wrong. And when people either read it in my books or or get it as a result of talking to me, they find that they end up thinking about things very differently than they have. Well, I want to go back and kind of address that as to what has happened in our country. And the writing of this particular part of the book brought this out. You've heard the term republic used to describe our country, and that we are a republic, but most people don't really know what that means. We hear a lot of people talking about democracy, and we hear a lot of our leaders talking about it, especially now. The uninformed refer to our country as a democracy. It's not at all a democracy, as I think, was it Churchill who said that democracy is two wolves and a lamb arguing over what's for lunch, and a republic is allowing the lamb to have a say in it. If I got that wrong, somebody correct me. But I think it was Churchill, and I think I was close. We were designed as a republic. We have become more of a democracy. Now what's the difference? And I'm going to get into what we should do in a minute. I know this is kind of dry. A republic is a representative government as opposed to pure democracy, which is everybody gets a vote. Well, sometime back in the 1800s, our form of republic changed. It was originally designed by our founders as what's referred to as an aristocratic republic, to where it was essentially run and represented by the, and this is a word that's gonna, it's gonna tickle a lot of people, um, run by uh, the more educated, okay, those with skin in the game, those who owned the large farms and plantations, and I know plantation carries all sorts of uh, triggering connotations with it. That's what they were called. Those who essentially were the ones who owned and produced and employed others. These were also the people who were the most educated. They were the most attuned into the affairs of the world. They had educations that allowed them to understand a lot of the basic philosophies that had grown and driven society through the centuries. The average person was not that educated, as our country developed. Once we got to the point where we were in the revolutionary or post-revolutionary years, most people were not that educated. Um, and they saw this. They saw the importance of a country, and much like anything, being run by those with the most information and who were the most able. Okay. And so it was referred to as aristocracy. We don't have royalty here and things like that, but it's just a simple word and describes a type of republic. Um, Long about in the 1820s to the 1850s, that changed, and it started changing under Andrew Jackson, and it became more of a democratic republic, to where the idea came about that everybody should have an equal vote. Now, I don't know about your family, but in my family, everybody does not have an equal vote. My wife and I are the ones who understand how life is. We are the providers and the protectors at this point. And while we want to do what's best for our children, and I'm sure you are all the same, and we ask many times what they would like to do, they don't get an equal vote with us. Now, on a Friday night when we go out for ice cream, we might say, okay, where does everybody want to go? And then we'll see what everybody, likes. And sometimes there's more than one places. Then we have a conversation about it, and then we decide on a place. And that's kind of, an egalitarian or a democratic way to do it. But we don't ask the kids if they want to go to school. We don't ask them if they want to brush their teeth. We don't ask them if they want to take out the trash. We don't ask them about those things. That's our responsibility to lay those things down, to run the family, to run the household, to run the businesses. It doesn't mean that we don't ask opinions, but the opinions are taken according to the value that each opinion has, and that value depends on the experience of the person. And what they've put into it. I know families that don't run like that. I know families who let the kids run everything, and those families are a mess. Well, I know a country to where the kids are running things now, and it used to be run by adults, and that's our country. We have gotten to the point where we think that everybody deserves to have an equal say in what's going on in our country. Now, right now, I bet this is going to tick some people off. And if you want to send this, if you agree with me, and you want to send this to people that you know that think the other way, feel free. We'd love to hear all the hateful comments that they're going to put down below. But they need to hear this. We now have a country to where everybody, no matter how much they put into or take out of our country, thinks they have a right to have an equal say. And because this is happening, our country is going down the tubes. People who don't have jobs, if they're otherwise able to have a job, people who are lazy, people who are parasites on society, people who would rather get their money by stealing it from others, mugging other people, shouldn't have a say in how this country is run. People who make their money off the largesse of the government, meaning us, meaning the people, because the government has no money of its own. The government doesn't have anything of its own that it doesn't first take from us. So people who think that they have a right to survive and be supported by our tax dollars shouldn't have a say in what goes on in this country, any more than my kids should have a say on whether or not I pay the light bill. Okay, instead of giving them money. You see, we don't run our family on deficit spending, and neither do you, I'm sure. But because we have so many people who have voted themselves money from the public treasury, our country's broke and going broker. Now, the reason that these people have been able to have a say is that we went from an aristocratic republic to a democratic republic. And that one particular party found out that they can get the votes of these people, and they've been doing it for 100 years more. They can get the votes for these people because these people are allowed to vote by promising them stuff. Promising them stuff. And guess what that stuff is? That's our stuff. Okay? We get out, we go to work, or we run our businesses, or we create value. And we work hard. And then we support our families, and we pay our bills, and we keep up on what's going on in the world, and we educate ourselves. And so we have a sense of how things ought to be run. But before we can do all that, a lot of our money is taken away from us. A lot of the fruits of our labors is taken away from us and given to those who make their money from government checks. You know, we're now, and I've mentioned this before, we're now to the point where there's so-called families out there who nobody in 5 generations has had a job, and yet they feel that they are entitled to decide how things are done in our country. How did it get to be that way? How did that happen? I'll tell you how it happened. It happened because, like I say, one particular group of people, one political party, realized that by promising my stuff and your stuff, promising that they would take stuff away from me and take stuff away from you and give it to these other people, they get those other people's vote, right? This is nothing new. You know, the old, if you rob Peter to pay Paul, you're always going to get Paul's vote, right? Okay. Same thing happened with, I'm part Irish, and when the Irish came over in after the famine, or all through, they got off the boat. They didn't have a job. They didn't have a place to stay. They didn't speak the language the same way that people did here, and they were met on the pier by a big guy in a suit who said, okay, here's an address, here's a place to live, here's a job you report to tomorrow, and feed your family, anything else you need, you come see me, and vote for McGillicuddy, right? That's the way the Irish developed their great political power, okay? And that's why they were such powers for a long time. Other groups have done the same. But by allowing the uneducated, the ignorant, the unproductive to have a full say in what happens in our country is wrong. Now, maybe that'll get this thing jerked off. I don't know. I'm sure it'll get a lot of hateful comments. And hey, bring it on, because If anybody is hateful on that, I'm happy for everybody else to see your ignorance. And we need to be calling people out on their ignorance. Now, if you said this to the average person, even the average person, I don't mean the ones necessarily that we're talking about. If you said this to the average person down the block from you, well, they would think that you're just a horrible, horrible person, and that's the problem. Because they've been educated in government schools to get this idea that feel good, we all have an equal say, we're all equal. I don't know where in the world that came from, except they like to repeat this part, all men are created equal. Yes, in the eyes of God and their value as humans, they're all created equal. But, if you think that all men are created equal, you ought to watch me out there trying to go up against a professional basketball team or football team. Guess what? It's not going to come out well for me, right? All people are not created equal. We are different. And the idea that our simple existence, or the simple existence of a person here, consuming oxygen and food, and the fruits of the labors of others, that they should have an equal say, is what's driven this country into the dirt. So even your educated person down your block will have this idea that it's only fair that everybody get an equal say. But ask them. Did you let your kids run your house when they were growing up? Well, no, but we always kind of wanted to make sure that yeah, that's right. You took care of them, right? You took care of them because they could not take care of themselves. That's what we need to get back to here. And it calls for changing the voting laws. We even have people, as you know, that want non-citizens to vote. What kind of craziness is that? How do we solve it? I don't know that we solve this, except that more people need to be educated on this and understand it. As we see these riots going on, as we see businesses being burned to the ground, businesses that people and families put everything they had into it, that supported those families, that were meant to be family businesses for generations, and they're burned out by ignorant parasites whose votes are equal to the votes of the family they burnt out. Tell me that's not insanity. That is insanity. Can we turn this around? I have no idea. I doubt it. We're not going to turn it around as an entire country. It's probably going to come down to what we've talked about. It's going to come down to a fragmentation, a balkanization, a splitting apart. Finally, there will be enough people sick and tired of this stuff that they will stand up and rise up. Our government was never made to be so big that everybody lived in fear of it. I know this is kind of a different subject, but I'll get back to those in a minute. You know, what do they say? What's the saying that when the government is afraid of the people, you have freedom, and when the people are afraid of the government, you have tyranny? Well, we have tyranny. You know, and it was a great line by Mel Gibson's character in The Patriot when he said, "Why would I want to trade one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants a mile away?" Meaning your neighbors. That's exactly what it is. Ignorant people and parasites are voting the direction of our country. Until that stops, it's not going to change. It won't change. There's no way to change it without that stopping. How do we stop it? Well, let's think about it for a little bit. I don't know. Maybe you start thinking about it, get it right in your mind, get an understanding of it, and then maybe you start talking to your friends about it. Maybe you get more people to, and when you start talking about it, their first reaction will be, "Oh no, I I don't want to hear this. This is hateful. This is just terrible, terrible things to think about. How could you say that all these people shouldn't have a right to vote? Because they're stupid and they're parasites. That's why. Okay. It's easy to say take your kids out of school, take your kids out of public school. That's a first step, certainly. But, a lot of private schools teach junk too. And there are a lot of public schools that teach good stuff. Now, we have homeschooled and we keep our kids in public schools now. For the most part, I'd say 90% of what comes out of there, what we know they're learning, is just fine. 10% is questionable, and we address that. And one of the reasons that we staying in the public schools right now is because we're staying in the fight. We are staying in the fight. We are not abdicating. We're not running away. We're staying in there trying to have an effect. Now, when the day comes, we don't think that we can have an effect, well, we'll be gone. Okay. We'll either go back to homeschooling or find a private school that does it the way we want it done. Okay. The second is, what about your work? Do you work for a place that requires certain things, that requires you to have certain training with which you disagree, that requires you to accept what you consider to be immoral or un-American positions? Well, maybe you ought to think about working someplace else. And you can say, well, I've got a good job. I make a lot of money. Okay, that's fine. Is that the only place you can make that money? There's nothing else that you can do, right? Nothing else that you can do. You can't make it your own way. And I know I'm not really making fun, but I'm just kind of, bringing this out. If you are that good, that you're making such a good living, working for a place that is against your beliefs, why aren't you good enough to go out and start something yourself to replace that money? You see, by staying in those places, you are supporting those places. You're supporting them with your talents and with your reputation. Well, that's another thing to do. And to stop supporting these places that are against your beliefs. We had a conversation, the kids and I, the other day, why we don't go to Disneyland. We don't go to Disneyland because they support things that we don't believe in. Would it be a lot of fun? Yeah, it'd be a ball. It'd be a lot of fun. Okay, you're going to trade off your values, your core beliefs for a little fun? Well, what if we could go free? What if we went and we sat in a what are those things? Timeshare, right? And then they give you free tickets. Okay. Well, so you're going to go down there and have fun. You're going to go to Disneyland for free. And you're not going to buy anything there. You're not going to buy an ice cream cone. You're not going to buy a Coke. You see, because if you buy anything, you're giving them money to use to promote the things you say you're against. Okay? That's a mark of somebody, right? I could tell a joke here, but probably shouldn't. And then you being there, just by your presence, you lend credibility to that place. Because you're going to come home, and the kids and you're going to tell the neighbors, oh, we went to Disneyland. We had such a fun time. And people will think, well, the Smiths went to Disneyland. Must be all right. Or some people might remember and say, well, I thought the Smiths said they didn't believe in Disneyland. And here they're going. And they're a bunch of hypocrites. Take your pick. Which do you want? How solid are your beliefs? Are your beliefs solid? Or are they just there situationally, only when it's convenient? And then when it gets kind of inconvenient, well, we don't really believe it. We believe it, but, it's that but. I like to say everything before but doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to bring this to a conclusion, but that's how our country changed. That's what's wrong with our country. We have too many people who don't know, too many ignorant people, too many parasites with a say in what's going on with our country. Do I think anything can be done about it? No, I don't. I think they're going to drive us into the toilet. But I just wanted to get this off my chest and put it out there. Because the more of us that start talking about this stuff, I think the more effect it will have. In any case, leave your comments, leave your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Tell me how much you hate me and what a horrible, lying, dirty dog person I am. And I'm sure we'll all enjoy reading those. So for the rest of you, good patriots and you producers and you responsible people who actually know what's going on and try to positively add to your life, the lives around you in our country, you all have a good day. And I'll talk to you later. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And preparing well today, I think, is preparing the world around you by trying to influence it. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.